we live in an era of Barack Obama presidency and historic trips to Egypt, people think people like Barack Obama are just going to spring forth full bore, but they're actually with us for a while. And I think it is my humble impression that we are in the presence of our female Barack Obama, and it is an honor that she would be with us today. When you look at leadership, and this is a leadership conference, I think that there are three, in my mind, critical elements to leadership. The first is the blindness and commitment to breaking through barriers that has been demonstrated in Kamala's career. She is the first woman district attorney general in San Francisco, the first African American to hold that office. She is also now running for state attorney general.
When I was first elected DA of San Francisco and started my office in 2004, and as Beatrice shared, I was elected as the first woman DA of San Francisco and the first African-American woman to be elected DA in the state of California. And so, you know, you do a lot of interviews, press and media interviews, and people would come up to me and they'd say, so, what does it feel like? What's it like to be the first woman DA of San Francisco? And I'd say, well, I've always been a woman, so I really don't know what to tell you. But I'm sure a man could do the job just as well. And so when we're talking about what it means to be a woman in these professions, it's not to the exclusion of the fact that other people can do the job. But certainly we do know that when we are in these very, very important roles that are about opinion leading, that are about moving forward an agenda or a policy, and bringing to bear on the opinions that we form, the experiences we have in life. We know that having women in positions of power and influence makes a difference because we do have certain unique experiences in this world and life that are relevant and important and need to be represented in these most powerful rooms and at these tables where decisions are affecting a lot of people. I want to congratulate Seema for the work that you've done also, because the role of the media in projecting what we can and believe women can do is very, very significant. And so thank you for the groundbreaking work you've done. When I first ran for district attorney, my mother said to me, she said, you be careful because, you know, there are a lot of barriers that have been broken. But in particular, people have a pretty difficult time thinking that women can be in two positions specifically. One, in a role to keep you safe, and the other, in a role to handle your money. Right? And that was very wise. Although she pointed out that the contrary is actually reality. Because we herald and know that women are the lionesses and will kill to protect their children. And we know that in most households, it is the women who are responsible for balancing the budget and making sure the bills get paid. But there are challenges to breaking those barriers and showing everyone who can do what. I'll never forget, I was in the Martin Luther King Day March, the first Martin Luther King Day celebration after I was elected, and I was marching down the street, and this man came up with his 3 sons, and he said, I want you to see her. I want you to see that that's who can be the district attorney of San Francisco. And what is relevant about that is that when we hold these positions of power and influence, it is absolutely, Susan Taylor, about making sure that our girls and young women coming up can see who they can be. It's also about having these young men who are coming up see who can be what. And in that way, hopefully, encourage them to know they can break barriers or boundaries around what it is they're supposed to do. So you see, when we're talking about women taking on positions of leadership, it's good for everybody. It's good for everybody who in any way can be impacted by some of these most powerful institutions, such as media, finance, and certainly what we do in the criminal justice system. And I don't think it is any coincidence that having had the experience of being a woman and caring about the experiences that women have of being an aunt to my niece who's here and about to go to Harvard Law School in the fall. It may be a coincidence, it may be not a coincidence, but yes, when I became DA in San Francisco, I created the first child assault unit. I created the first senior assault unit. I also created a gun policy and wrote in the first line, why do we have a policy against guns? Because guns kill. And I was able to sponsor legislation that for the first time made it a state crime to traffic women and girls. And when you track what has happened in terms, in particular, of having women in positions of leadership in law enforcement, I'll share with you something that you know. It was only about 25 years ago, frankly, that the system started to take domestic violence, the crime of domestic violence, seriously. Now, did it just start 25 years ago? Of course not. But the system had decided that what a king does in his castle is his business. And it's no coincidence that at about the same time that women started becoming police officers and lawyers and judges and prosecutors, that we decided when any human being has to endure physical abuse, has to walk into a job situation with a black eye and face the embarrassment of that, has to in any way be humiliated in front of her children and deprived of her ability to have dignity in this world, that's a crime. And when that crime occurs, it's not just a crime against that woman, it's a crime against all of us. And so I say to you that I know from the work that I do as a prosecutor, I know from the work that you do as a state senator, and the work that all of you do in this very difficult economic crisis, we as women know what it means to translate crisis into opportunity, and in that process to empower so many who need to have a voice, and in particular, those people who just need a little inspiration from watching what we do. And in that way, everyone in this room is a role model. And it's a wonderful thing to be a role model. It's an honor to be a role model. It can also be very lonely to be a role model. Because we always and often will find ourselves sitting in a room where we're the only one that looks like us or that has had our experience. And so it is important for each of us to look around this room and hold this sight and hold on to it and remember that wherever we go, whatever we aspire to do, even if it has not been done before, there is a whole room of people that sit and stand here applauding us every step of the way, and then when each one of us makes a step toward our goal and makes a step that is toward the success of ourselves and our profession, we have got a whole lot of cheerleaders standing back and being inspired by the work that we do and cheering us on. So I'm going to close my comments by just sharing one thing that my mother used to say to my sister and me. My sister happens to be the vice president of the Ford Foundation over the Peace and Social Justice Policy giving there. And my mother used to say, Kamala and Maya, you all may be the first to do many things, but make sure you're not the last. And that is what CUP is doing today. Thank you.